Due to the current circumstances and events happening around the world, a lot of events and things have been cancelled, and sadly NAB is just such an event. It's a bit of a shame, as I was looking forward to seeing all the cool new camera stuff and lights that were going to be announced. However, a lot of companies are still planning on announcing new products, with online press conferences and demonstrations and all that. So there still are going to be some new stuff coming out around April, and Canon has scheduled a press release thingy for the 20th of April, in which they're going to be talking about camcorders, video stuff, and just professional Canon cinema cameras. With all this in mind, I think it's highly likely that we're going to see a Canon C300 Mark III announced in a couple of weeks. Now, this isn't going to be a massive update, certainly not to the scale that the C500 Mark II was. However, there should be a significant spec bump. The C300 Mark III is rumoured to have a 4K Super 35 sensor. It's going to be able to do 4K at up to 120 FPS with no crop, and it should be doing this in Cinema Raw Lite internally. Now, this isn't a groundbreaking update compared to the C300 Mark II, but it's a very welcome spec bump, and importantly, it helps it fit more into the lineup than the C300 Mark II does. The C200 can actually do a lot of the things that the C300 Mark II can do. Really, you're buying a C300 Mark II if you want timecode or the other professional I/O ports that the C200 lacks, or if you need to record RAW externally. But otherwise, the C200 can do most of the things the C300 can do, especially slow motion. The C200 can do slow motion without any cropping on the sensor, and the C300 Mark II does crop in the sensor on slow motion recording. But anyway, besides all that, the C300 Mark III is going to share the same body as the C500 Mark II, despite having the smaller Super 35 sensor. This is actually a really good idea because it's going to make it compatible with all the C500 Mark II accessories, both the ones sold by Canon and third-party accessories too. This would be really useful if you want to use a C300 Mark III and a C500 Mark II on the same shoot. The new C300 is not just going to have internal Cinema Raw Lite, it's also going to have Canon's XF AVC format, as a bit of a in-between between Cinema Raw Lite and MP4. XF AVC is a pretty good way of recording, and quite a few Canon cameras do have it right now, such as the C200 and my Canon XC10. But even though the C300 Mark II should be able to do internal Cinema Raw Lite, I am hoping that there is going to be an option to output RAW to an external recorder, such as Apple ProRes RAW with an Atomos or Blackmagic Design RAW with a Blackmagic Video Assist. It just gives you a bit more flexibility, and you can get RAW formats with a lower compression ratio than the roughly 5:1 that Cinema Raw Lite has. The C300 Mark III should also have an anamorphic desqueeze option as well as a false color option. I mean, this is really nice because before you would have needed an external monitor such as a small HD if you wanted that sort of functionality. It's also rumoured to have a dual ISO, which is a feature that's becoming more and more common. The Panasonic EVA 1 has it, and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera has it too. Basically, cameras have a native ISO where they perform best in terms of having no noise and in terms of dynamic range as well. What a dual ISO does is it gives the camera more than one native ISO. You have a normal ISO such as 800 or 850 for normal recording, and then you have a second ISO which is usually 3200 for some more low light performance. And this is a really good way of maintaining noise-free images in low light situations, so I'm pretty excited to see what that's going to be like too. And it's not just the C300 Mark III that's going to be released. Apparently there's going to be a new cinema lens too, although I have no idea what that is going to be. But sadly, I haven't seen any mentions about a refresh to the Canon C100. It's a bit of a shame though, because I think the C100 Mark III could be a pretty cool camera. They could give it 4K MP4 internal recording, then there could be a 10-bit 422 output via HDMI so you could use an external recorder, and there would still be enough of a difference so that it wouldn't compete too much with the Canon C200. And also, another interesting idea, you could put an RF mount on the C100 Mark III. It's a bit of a shame that currently there's no interface between the RF lenses and the Canon Cinema Series cameras, but an RF mount C100 Mark III would do that. And considering that the Canon C100 lineup is normally aimed at people who have lower budget productions, the kind of people who aren't going to be using cinema lenses, normally who are using L lenses, it makes perfect sense to use the RF lenses because they are incredibly high quality, and it is a bit of a shame that currently you can't use them on any Canon Cinema series camera. But maybe I'm just being a little bit biased. After all, I do own a Canon C100 Mark II, and I would like to see an upgraded version of that camera because I do love my C100 Mark II a lot. Either way, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the Canon C300 Mark III. If you found this video useful, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing so as not to miss any new videos. See you later.